Hello and welcome to another What Sold on eBay video. I am your host Chris and we're going to go over some of the items sold in our eBay store. So if you're new to the channel and you want to learn about different things to sell on eBay, definitely go down there and click the subscribe button. And if you're returning, definitely go down there and click the like button if you enjoy these videos, because that definitely helps out the algorithm and helps out the channel. So I definitely appreciate that. So we're going to go over some items that we sold in our eBay store. I'm going to go over a little bit of the items and you can see the different things that we sold. So when you're out there and about, or if you have some of these items in your home, you can definitely list them on eBay and make some money, because that's what we're all about here, because learning is earning for sure. So let's get right into it. Today, first up, we have the Chevron cars. This is Patty Patrol. Some of you have probably seen these over the years, and for the most part, these were sold in Chevron gas stations, and I think they probably actually still sell versions of these at the gas stations. I haven't been in a Chevron in I don't know how many years, but I do remember the last time I was in there, they did still have certain things like this. This one was from 1997, so this is a little older. This is definitely considered vintage now. You know, it's past the 20-year mark, and you know, the Disney Cars, Pixar Cars, was pretty much based off of these things. Disney had a relationship with Chevron. If you went to the Autotopia ride at Disneyland, they had these kind of cars in a little screen thing where you can go and you know, when you're waiting in the queue, you could see this little like kind of cartoon that would play. And so this is definitely way before Disney Pixar Cars, and this is totally inspired by Cars. One thing, these really don't sell for that much. There are some of them that actually sell for decent money, but if you ever come across these, just make sure that you pick them up at a reasonable price and sell them in a lot. I've sold lots of these in personally over the years, and I've noticed that, you know, look them all up, because there, like I said, there are some that are worth between 20 and 40, but 90% of them are going to be worth under 10 bucks, if not under $15. And so, you know, just lot them up, and that's basically what I wanted to show you about these. If you find them loose, they're not even worth buying, to be honest, unless they're super cheap and you have a child or you know, a young kid that would play with these, because they're definitely fun to play with. I know if I was younger, I would definitely be looking this up for sure. So that's basically what these are for sure. So definitely, you know, keep an eye out, but just realize that these aren't going to be like huge, um, big ticket items for sure. Next up, we have this Kate Spade rhinestone button-up wool cashmere cardigan. Now, for the most part, as a guy, I didn't know exactly what the difference between a sweater and a cardigan is, and I guess like a cardigan is kind of like a button-up sweater. As you can see here, it's usually kind of thin, and it's got a little bit of I don't know what you'd call it, like a scoop neck or a crew neck, as you can see there. And Kate Spade is definitely a bolo brand to look out for. Now, not every Kate Spade thing is going to be worth a ton of money, so you're going to have to look them up on a case by case basis. As you can see here, that's what the logo looks like. Now, I know the logo's changed over the years, so this is, you know, one particular logo. And so definitely look out for Kate Spade stuff if you do find it, and just you know, do your usual things like looking underneath the pits to make sure there's no ripping, there's no staining, and usually stuff like that. I mean, stained clothes usually could sell, but you know, if you're gonna be a reseller, it's probably best to try to buy the most mint condition stuff that you can find, unless the price is right. As you can see here, there's the hardware here on the buttons are pretty well done. You can see here they're kind of like these little glass crystal-y things. And overall, the quality is pretty good. The stitch and the knit looks amazing. So, like I said, Kate Spade, definitely a bolo brand to look out for if you're out there in the field. Next up, we have this Frank Lloyd Wright men's silk tie. Now, this thing had some damage to it. It had like a pinhole. I think I actually pointed it. This is actually a good pro tip. If you're doing eBay stuff and you have damage, definitely have a finger pointing at that thing. And sometimes even in the description, I'll say like photo 3 or something like that to kind of denote, as you can see there, this was probably worn, you know, professionally at some point. And usually those little pin tacks, it's usually, or, you know, usually lapel pins or some kind of like pin or tie tack that is a pin that goes through the ties. So just if you're ever looking for ties, make sure you're looking for not only stains, which, you know, ties are stained all the time because, you know, men drink coffee and coffee spills, the coffee and spaghetti stains, I would say, are the most common stains you're going to find on ties. So definitely check out your ties in the front and the back. Ties condition is everything. Though if you can find some like really rare ties, people won't really care too much about the condition, though that'll affect the price for sure. But yeah, this one had a pinhole. We still sold this for $10 plus $5.99 shipping. This is stuff you can find all day long. Ties are kind of a weird thing when it comes to reselling. You have to you basically can't just pick up any tie and think you're going to sell them. You have to be selling ties for a good amount of time to understand, because actually the styles change. Not the styles, the appetite of the purchasers change over the years, I've noticed too. So it's like, one tie that didn't sell 5 years ago might sell today, and vice versa. So just look out the different designs. Even designs, even if they're not name brands, sell very well. But name brands are everything when it comes to ties. You just have to get familiar with them. There's literally hundreds of tie manufacturers and tie designers, so you'll have to just do your research on these. Like I said, I've tried to get into the tie game like 2 or 5, wait, actually it was like longer than that, like 5 years ago, and I'm stuck with a bunch of ties, so that's just some word of advice. Speaking of Frank Lloyd Wright, and we're going to take a little bit of a side trip here, and if you definitely appreciate these side trips, go down there and click the like button. Um, Frank Lloyd Wright is a architecture. Let me see here. Is an architect, and you gotta look out for this Lego set if you do find it. Like this Lego set sealed goes for a crazy amount of money. There's a few of them, but anything Frank Lloyd Wright in Legos and architecture, definitely pick them up. As you can see here, even ones that are open go for a crazy amount of money. So that is your bolo. That is your hidden bolo of the day, is to look out for these. Any of these Lego architectures, they actually go for pretty good money. Not all of them go for crazy money, but the Frank Lloyd Wright ones that are, I think these things are long retired, go for a pretty crazy amount of money. I mean, look at this. Even the instruction manual went for like, someone's trying to get $200 for, and some of these go for literally hundreds. So there's your secret bolo of the day. If you do appreciate that, definitely go down there and click the like button. Next up is this unsigned Native American style sterling silver cuff. Now I said unsigned Native American style because it is in the style of, um, I think it's in the style of Navajo. I mean, it could be Zuni, though Zuni will have, usually Zuni will be like these kind of hammered in marks with, filled in with usually some kind of patina, as you can see here. The only mark on this was sterling. Now, one thing to know about selling Native American jewelry is you have to, if you're going to sell it as Native American jewelry, like official, proper, you're going to have the name of the artist and their tribal affiliation. And so sometimes if you list this stuff as like Navajo or Zuni and it's not, you're going to get removed by eBay. So that's the general rule, is to, if it's stamped with a name. Now there's plenty of places to go online to find the Native American jewelry hallmarks. Like that's literally all you have to Google is Native American jewelry hallmarks, and there's a great website that has like A through Z. And I'm sorry I don't have the link right now, but it's just a simple Google search away, and you can definitely find that. And so that's how you can enlist those. But this one just didn't have, it just was the style. Like it was made, probably, somewhere in New Mexico or in this area for sure. It's got that definitely style, but it was kind of older too. So basically, this was sold pretty much for weight and style. This sold for $84.99. So just look out for these kind of things. Anything sterling. I mean, if you're out there, just if you find anything that says sterling on it, definitely pick it up. And it's just one of those things where sterling's always going to be worth money, and you can definitely check out the different prices of sterling um, on Google. Just Google like silver prices, because that fluctuates. Sometimes silver's up, sometimes silver's down. I think in 2011 it was like 30 something dollars an ounce, which is crazy money. I think right now it's like about $18 an ounce. So the price hasn't fluctuated like insane since then. So it's about 10 years. But that was right after the financial crisis of 2008, when we saw like silver and gold prices go crazy like a couple years after that. Anyways, that's enough about that. Next up, speaking of some kind of jewelry, we got some antique handmade solid gold 14 karat earrings. As you can see here, they're India tribal. These things weigh about 2.8 grams. Now that is important when you're doing solid gold jewelry. Definitely do a photo of the weight because there's a lot of people that buy this stuff just to melt it down, which is a shame because these are old. You know, these are probably over 100 years old. Uh, what you could do is actually, you know, the thing is like with a lot of vintage jewelry and antique and vintage jewelry won't even be marked. It's just one of those things where when you deal with jewelry or gold long enough, you kind of know what it feels like. And usually gold, for the size, has some pretty good weight to it. And usually antique stuff is not going to be marked. So if you're a savvy buyer, you can definitely find this stuff sometimes in junk jewelry kind of boxes at garage sales or even jewelry jars. Sometimes people don't have the time to test this kind of stuff. And you can easily do a magnet test, you can do an acid test, and you can also do electronic test, which is you know, a tester that's kind of like, you know, it's a few $100s. But the acid test is about $20. Just, you know, you're dealing with harsh chemicals, so be warned about that. The magnet test is free. Well, not free. I mean, you got to buy a magnet, and it's about like, you know, $10 for a really good. They're in between 10 to $20 to look at it. And if I can remember, I'll put a link in the description below so you can see like the magnet that I use. And if it's, you know, if it sticks to the magnet, then it's not real gold, it's not real silver. It's the very first thing I do when I'm testing metals. But if you do this long enough, you kind of can look at something and be like, you know, does it have tarnish? No, it doesn't have tarnish, so that's another thing. Is it magnetized? No. Okay, is it tarnished? No. Well, those are really good signs that you might have actually a piece of gold. So, you know, because gold doesn't tarnish. If you ever see any green stuff on gold, that usually means that it's a plate or some kind of amalgamation of gold. So definitely look out for that. Next up, we have this Nikon FM 35mm film camera. This is vintage, and it has the Nikon 50mm lens. And we've talked about cameras before in the past, and I keep meaning to do a video. If you want to see a video on cameras, I think I have the time now. Do one. Sometimes the lenses even go for more than the cameras themselves, and we can talk about that in a future video. As we can see, this is a fixed 50mm lens, which is pretty standard as far as these vintage cameras. If you have a vintage camera in your collection, go and look at it. It's probably a 50mm lens fixed. That was just it's actually a really great lens. It's a great portrait lens. And as you can see here, this is a 1.2 f-stop. And so this one actually lets in a pretty good amount of light. So, you know, usually the lower that number, the more expensive the lens is. Not always, but that's a good rule of thumb. And if you don't know about that, I'll do another video at some point. Testing these things, of course, you know, it's really hard to test these because it's hard to get film. It's hard to get processed it. It's a lot of money sometimes to buy the film and process it. But you can do some few simple tests, which I'll cover in another video. So if you get a camera, you do these tests, you can at least be 90% sure that it works with just like pretty much a 5-point test. This sold for $81. Vintage cameras are hit and miss. You'll have to look them up. This one was very difficult to look up because usually it'll have the model number right here on the side, but this one actually has a model number on the back, which is FM. That 2411404 number, that is probably just a serial number. It's FM, as this is what this is go by. This one looks like it's actually missing its little rubber stopper on the back of the eyepiece there. But of course, you want to take good photos of it. You want to take all angles. You get 12 photos, you might as well use them all. Some people might want to see the battery compartment that's back here. No, it's right there. I didn't do that this time. I think I ran out of photos. As we can see there, this had a UV lens, which is really nice. Sometimes those UV covers, they're not even worth that much, but they're good to put on these so that you don't damage the main lens. So you'll commonly see these on vintage cameras. They could be, you know, spectrum lenses, UV lenses, and things like that. And so they're just basically like lens covers that do certain things to the photograph, like either, you know, protects the camera from UV rays, or it kind of makes a shadow, like reflective things non-reflective, and different things like that. So also take a photo of the inside like we did here. Collectors want to see the inside because sometimes the insides are rusted and damaged. As you can see, there's a little bit of it's not really damage on the side there because it's like a fabricy material that kind of frays a little bit. That's just manufacturing process. Just make sure, like I said, I'll do another video at some point. I can literally talk like 20 minutes about this camera alone and like the different things that, how to look it up and how to check it and all that kind of stuff. But we don't have time for that. Next up, we have this Manolo Blahnik shoes. These are wicker shoes, size 41. Usually, these European styles are going to have European sizes. You can definitely look them up. There's lots of great infographics on Google. I have a couple of links saved for like as far as like shoe sizes because we deal with a lot of designer shoes that come in all the time. So size 41 is going to be like I don't know like off the top of my head, but it'd be like, oh, I don't know, size like 8 in US or size 9 in US. So you'll have to do some conversions. There are different sizes. There's a UK size. I think there's even like a French size. There's an Italian size, which is very common, and of course US standard size, which is will be a lower number. UK numbers are high. The US is pretty much the only size that is like low in numbers, and I don't know how that works, or it probably has to do with the metric system and all that kind of fun stuff. So there's that. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely go down there, click the like button, leave a comment below. Let me know what your favorite item was, and if you learned something new, I definitely appreciate that. And like I said, if you're new to the channel and you like this kind of content, you find it helpful, definitely go down there and click the subscribe button. Once again, I'm Chris, and we'll see you next time. Take care.